Yes, of course. It's Miguel Figueroa, and I am the national leader of the Communist Party of Canada.
And what brings you to Edmonton?
Well, I'm in Edmonton and going on to Calgary as part of a western swing of a tour which has taken me to virtually every part of the country to talk about a number of questions that are connected with a campaign that actually we've launched against austerity and against war, and the need to start pulling all of the threads of resistance, the labor movement, the Aboriginal movement, youth and students who've been fighting in Quebec and so on against tuition increases, the environmental movement, pull all of the social forces that are being impacted by these austerity policies of right-wing governments together and to build a united fight back against it. And we see resistance growing in Europe, in countries like Greece and Spain and Italy and so on. And in fact, there is a coordinated campaign to transform government policy, social policy, and to cut back on healthcare, education, pensions for people, social protections. The whole social safety network is under attack everywhere around the world. And it's being done to put the interests of profit, the interests of big capital, before the interests of people. This is a minority view, but they have the power, they have government power, they have economic power, bank power, and so on. And they have the media, the mass media, not the independent media, but the mass media. But we have the numbers. We're the majority of the people. I'm not just speaking about communists or New Democrats or even lefties, but working people in general, seniors, indigenous peoples, not only here in Canada but around the world. See, in Latin America, for instance, indigenous peoples have been very active, and we need to pull all those threads of resistance together and build a common fight back. And that's one of the things that our party is championing and we're campaigning around, and that's the reason why I'm here in Alberta.
Mm-hmm. And how do you expect your reaction to be here in Alberta, which is known for not exactly being the most progressive place on earth?
Sure, and there's still vestiges of anti-communism everywhere in the country. But what we're finding is more and more people are judging, for instance, our party, not based on a stereotype or whatnot, but rather based on what we say, what we do, where we stand, and that's all we've ever asked for. So from that point of view, the response, especially amongst younger people, is much better than it has been ever before. But it's not about the Communist Party, and it's not about individual organizations or groups. It's about the assault on the people in general, and the need to set aside, in a certain sense, the differences and find what unites us and build that kind of common fight back. Mm-hmm. That's the most important question for us.
And how have you been received so far in the other places you've been speaking?
Well, quite well. I've been touring in Ontario to begin with, and then Manitoba, and I'm working myself out west. So I've just arrived here in Alberta, going on to Calgary and the west coast, and then of course going to Quebec and the east coast. It's been encouraging, the response. I mean, in many respects, what we're calling for is what a lot of groups are calling for. In the labor movement, in the Council of Canadians, in the student movement in Quebec, which now has come to the conclusion, by the way, in Quebec, that they can't fight for accessible education and against neoliberal policies in Quebec unless they find ways of uniting with working people in English Canada. Mm-hmm. So, there's all sorts of organizations and groups and movements which are figuring it out and figuring out the need to build unity. And we're one of those voices, and we think that in fact there's no other way for us to move forward. Mm-hmm. If we don't unite, we will be picked off one by one by one. And in fact, we've already been through a long period of restraint and austerity. That assault is getting worse and worse, and there is no other way forward but to unite and to fight.